YouTube and as a podcast over all of the major channels. And each week I get to sit with an inspiring person and listen to them tell their story and share it with all of you. This week is no different. I'm joined by Kiko Matthews. Welcome, Kiko. Kiko is an incredibly impressive woman. I'm going to give the customary introduction, and honestly it's going to be difficult to know where to start here. So Kiko is the founder of Kick Plastic, which we'll come on to, also a world record ocean rower, we'll talk about that, a speaker, an environmentalist, grew up in Herefordshire, spent some time with a charity called the Colin Javins Spinal Injury Trust, which included a long drive from London to Cape Town. Yeah. Very interesting, but raised more than £500,000 pounds, I think. Was a teacher on and off for many years, taught science, and that period was peppered with the diagnosis of Cushing's disease, which we'll talk about and explain what that is for people who no one's heard of it. And that really sort of served as the trigger point and a pivot point in Kiko's life, whereupon she took on the world, like by the looks of things, founding stand-up paddleboards Kiko. She then did the Ocean Power. Was that what it's called? Ocean Power?
Oh, what, the crossing?
Yeah. Did you have a name for it?
No. What was it? No, it didn't have transatlantic solo. I think it was
transatlantic solo. Okay, so the ocean row, and incredible, and broke the world record by some distance, and is doing so many amazing things since then. An ultra marathon in Jordan, paddleboard around Ibiza, a recent sail between I think it was the Netherlands and
Netherlands via North Denmark.
Amazing. Kick Plastic, which is about cleaning up the beaches and the oceans of plastic and generally eliminating that sort of waste, and many others that I could continue to go on about, but I won't.
Probably lost everyone by now.
I know. You're still there. Everyone's still there. So what an impressive track record. Let's pick it up when you were teaching and you found out you had Cushing's disease. Can you tell us about that and tell us about the disease?
Yeah, so first of all, so I was teaching secondary science, and I decided I wanted to move from Dorset to London, and it was summer term, and life was amazing, and I wasn't sleeping, and I was just like totally high on life and just couldn't wait for all this new exciting stuff. And my dad's a GP, and during the summer holidays I went home and I got these funny spots on my chest. He said I need to go to the doctor, but I was like, they're not killing me, just they'll disappear, it's only spots. And then a couple of weeks later, I'd been drinking water like regularly. I had a bottle because I had this funny taste in my mouth. And anyway, Mum said, Dad said, now you need to go to the doctor. Yeah. Mum said, tell him you're a bit hairy and a bit podgy. It was like poking my tummy. I was like, thanks Mum, nothing like your mother to tell the truth, right? So I went to the doctor and reeled off this whole list of things. I hadn't really been sleeping properly. My legs were feeling a bit weird. I definitely got this like overhang belly and these really skinny legs. I like weirdly skinny and weirdly podgy relative. And so I was telling him all these things, and he was very interested by the spots. And then as I was leaving, I was like, oh yeah, the reason I've come is because I've got a funny taste in my mouth. Anyway, it turned out I had thrush. He said, you've either got diabetes or HIV, and I was like, great. There was no other option. Luckily I had diabetes, because obviously, well, I mean, I don't know, it is curable in my case, but it's...
Not many people would describe diabetes as lucky.
I mean, it's better than HIV, I think.
I guess.
I don't know. But actually, I don't know, in this day and age, maybe HIV is better. That's not the point, but anyway, it turned out that Mum got on the internet, it's like, why she got diabetes? And then she was like, oh, I think you've got Cushing's, because you're definitely a bit weird. So psychosis and mania is one of the things. Insomnia, bruising, diabetes, I can't remember what the other things were that she kind of identified. Dad was like, don't be so ridiculous, it's so rare. The doctor's daughter wouldn't have it. I'm like, yeah, I've self-proclaimed were diagnosed third child attention seeking syndrome, which is like middle child syndrome.
Right.
And I was like, if I'm going to get ill, I'm not just going to have flu. I'm going to make
Do
sure
it
it's big,
properly,
like big,
yeah.
bigger and better than the brothers and sisters. And lo and behold, I had so I had end stage diabetes. Mum phones up, well, Dad phones up Mum's ex-boyfriend, who's a top endocrinologist in King's College Hospital. Went down there and I was admitted straight away, and I got kind of a very severe form of it where most people get really fat and podgy before it even gets diagnosed. They keep going back to the doctors, no one knows what it is, 'cause it's one of those things you learn about in like every medical person I speak to goes, oh yeah, we heard about that at university, but I've never met anyone with it. So it's one of those kinds of things.
It's one of those Dr. House ones.
Yeah, and because there's so many symptoms, because it's a hormone-based illness. So I had a pituitary tumor, which pumps out a hormone, which then signals to your adrenal glands to secrete cortisol, which is your stress hormone. Not because I'm stressed, but it's the tumor related. So the hormone obviously goes to every single cell in your body. So by the time I kind of got to hospital, I had osteoporosis, muscle wasting to the point I couldn't get up the stairs without using my arms to help me get up and out of the bath. I had insomnia, I had memory loss, I had psychosis, mania, skin thinning, bruising, spotty, hairy, podgy, like big face, lump of fat on my kind of, they call it a buffalo hump. Had about 3 double chins as opposed to sort of 1. And generally, basically I was kind of
Quite unwell.
very unwell very quickly.
Yeah.
Although they think I'd had it for a long time, suddenly it was like, boom, it all came, and it was like so obvious, whereas most people kind of little bit by little bit,
Right.
they kind of, so it takes a long time, so they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I've been exercising loads to try and keep my weight down, so I'd kind of masked it a little bit. Ended up in intensive care because my potassium levels dropped so low that if it dropped by 0.1 or something more, then I would have been out and not re-jumpable. Whatever you call that, restartable.
Yeah. With the pedals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they pumped me full of potassium, stabilised me. A week later they went up my nose, took out, it was only 6 millimetres, it's amazing, and it's not cancerous, so it's got nothing to do with cancer.
So it's benign
It's
tumour.
just a bright benign tumour that's just pumping out,
Right.
overly active. And it's the hormones that kill you, not the kind of, it doesn't go anywhere.
It must have made me feel, I mean, do you remember the time? Did
Yeah,
it make
yeah,
you feel
so-
like with stress hormones pumping everywhere?
So by the time I got to hospital, my head was like, and the bright lights and everything, it was too much, and you can't remember, so that becomes stressful because you're trying to remember what you haven't remembered, and then people come and visit you and they're trying to have conversations with you, and so you're like really struggling and conscious to try and be as normal as possible, when all you want to do is just go like, blah, 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 like loopy-loo. You haven't slept for a month or something, so you've got that on top of it. So yeah, it wasn't particularly nice. And then when they took it out, like overnight, within 3 days, the diabetes had gone. Had a bit of brain fluid dripping, which we had to kind of like make sure that that's sealed, because you obviously, the person next to me in the bed had the same thing, and she actually died of meningitis.
Oh,
pretty
God.
much, not in front of me, but they whisked her out. So it's like it's a life-threatening illness.
Clearly.
And
But
people do die
after 3 days,
back to sleep, because it's the hormones that cause all the symptoms. So as soon as you remove the issue,
Yeah.
the only problem you do have is it's like being on drugs. So if you're a massive drug taker or a massive alcoholic, and then you suddenly stop either of those, your body goes, it's like a massive craving. So it got so used to those
Sort of
high,
withdrawal
extreme
symptoms,
high
yeah.
levels, you have to be very careful not to send it into like shock.
Right.
So you'll get put on hydrocortisone, and then your body's a bit like, oh,
Sort of just eases
so
you
hard
off.
work. But but I've gone from like 3,000, it's meant to be 350 in the morning, your levels, that's a high level.
Your cortisol
Yeah,
levels.
cortisol, mine were like 3,500 on one day, and
Wow.
nighttime was 1,500, so cortisol rises, it wakes you up in the morning
Yeah.
and then it drops at nighttime.
Yeah.
And they were 1,500 at nighttime, which bearing in mind your daytime is meant to be 250, like by nighttime I was like buzzing. So then you take that away, and your body has got used to high levels, so it
Right.
needs to have that just as a sustain, and so you gently
Gently lower it back
through
down.
medication.
And that's
So 2 years of that, 2 years of meds.
2 years of meds.
Yeah.
And that obviously gave you a wake-up call. You obviously were teaching when you were in the hospital, but at the prior to that you were teaching, and how did that change your mindset?
Yeah, so to begin with, I was just like, great, going to this new school, it's all going to be cool. It was pretty hard work because it's a new school, and I was obviously in recovery, although mentally I'm like, I'm fine. In hindsight, I was very achy, and everything was very hard work. And I think after about 18, I think it was 18 months, I just kind of thought, like, what am I doing? I've got another chance to do what I want to do in life, to live my life. It certainly isn't, I'm certainly not living my life here at the school, being a teacher.
Right.
So I just handed my notice in and left the next summer. So I did, they left my job open for me, which was amazing. And then I sort of did 18, I think I was there for 18 months, and then went back to Africa, where I learned to stand up paddleboard.
And Africa's a good place to do that?
On the Nile, yeah.
On the Nile?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was my first.
But if you fall in the Nile, that you get sick. I fell in the Nile once and I was terribly sick. I think it might have been years over.
And then maybe did you drink it?
Yeah, I think I might.
No, I mean, there are things, but I didn't get sick. There's Bill Hart's here and other things, but kind of, it's more, I got malaria, but not from the river. So I learned paddleboard, and when I came back to UK, I decided that I wanted to live my life and give back. So I wanted to set up a paddleboard company, charity, which I eventually managed to sort of write all those horrible forms and set up a charity, but didn't actually have any money. But my thoughts were I could make money through the charity to pay me and to do paddleboarding.
And this was Akiko.
So Akiko, the big stand was the charity.
Yeah.
Couldn't do anything because of the red tape and no money. So I thought, well, I just might as well just set up a company and do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I can take money, not have the red tape. I can just do good stuff in my company. It doesn't mean I don't have to be.
So it was for profit in the end.
Yeah, so it was for profit, but I did something called trash retreats where we collected trash out the canals in Hackney, which is pretty cool. And then my partner, but canoeing, kayaking. They also had a cafe in Hackney, so we would bring my sort of customers would bring a bucket of trash and we'd get a cake or coffee at the end of the day that they probably had left over, but it kind of was just a nice little thing. We were cleaning up the canal for them and they also were part of it too, so that was cool. And then just a lot of it was just, I don't even know if you'd call it coaching, but I would just chat to people and just like, it was great. They come from this horrible day's work in the city.
Yeah.
They'd end up in Richmond, so I did Richmond and Hackney, and we go out, we go up to the pub in Twickenham, we come back down again, everyone's learnt a new skill, they've all had a beer or whatever they have, and they've forgotten about their whole day, and then we chat to them, and it was just like a really nice well-being type of thing.
And you were collecting single-use plastics out of the canals.
Yeah, exactly, and so cleaning up. So the community people loved us because we were doing good stuff for the community. People who I was taking out tended to like me, apart some of them did not when they fell in and they hated it, but I do that. But generally it was a really positive good vibe. I wasn't making loads of money, but I was making enough that I could kind of survive. Felt good because I had obviously set up a charity and a business kind of on my own, and I made sort of partners, and just life just was pretty good. And I thought to myself that I felt like I'd done that challenge, so I like to set myself little or big challenges, whatever you want.
Little challenges, I don't think that's true.
And I'd done that, so at university I decided I was going to do better than my brothers and sisters in my degree,
Quite right.
which I did, And then...
Do you think they might be watching?
Yeah, no. I think they've seen so much of me, I think they're bored. And then the UK to Cape Town drive was a bit of a challenge that I kind of wanted to do, and then setting up my business was another kind of thing. And once I'd done that, I was like, okay, what's next? And I just... You
breezed very quickly through the UK to Cape Town drive.
Yeah. That was back in the 2005.
Okay.
It was a challenge. It was a challenge in itself because the guy who was driving was tetraplegic, so fully paralysed, pretty much apart from shoulder movement. So we had a Land Rover adapted for him, and my fiance was best mates with him, and so because he was going, I thought I should go. And I obviously would who wouldn't want to go to drive through Africa?
Absolutely.
However, the fiance bit wasn't quite so successful, and in Ethiopia I cancelled that one. So it was a super challenge. It was not only a challenge
but
in itself,
completed the trip.
but I still completed the trip.
Amazing.
With him and me in the same Land Rover for four more months.
Interesting, a feat of strength in itself. Yeah.
not my best days.
No, I imagine. So you've had this diagnosis, you've got over it, you've completely pivoted your life, you've set up Akiko and a charity. What led you from there into taking on the Atlantic?
Well, so I'd had this idea I wanted to do a challenge. So, someone had said, "Oh, you should be doing some adventures because I think you'd be great." And I was like, "Okay." And I'd met these guys who ran an ocean rowing company, and it's kind of, so I knew about ocean rowing, so it wasn't a completely random.
Is that a thing? Did
Yeah,
people
yeah.
ocean rowing?
Yeah,
Is
there's a
that
race and everything.
Wow.
But I hadn't thought about that, and then Mum said to me one day, it was sort of a bit of a joke, but she was like, Prince Harry, I think he'd be such a good boy. I think there's a programme on him or something, and she was like, he'd be such a good boyfriend. And I was like, yeah, I guess he would, but how on earth do I get his attention? I know what, I'll solo row across the Atlantic and I'll go for world records, was my thoughts. And if I raise money for Help for Heroes, then, you know, he'd want to meet me. Then about 6 months into my kind of campaign, I thought, oh, this is not really, I was trying to sell my story to, not that particular story, but I was trying to sell the rowing story to sponsors to slap the thingy, their logo on my boat and be part of it. I'd never rowed before, I'd never been to sea, and like, you know, Help for Heroes, what was that about? And I actually realised that what this was all about was me setting challenges, especially because I nearly died and I'd been in a position where I couldn't get up the stairs properly, and I was now going to put my body and my brain through this like very stressful situation, and hopefully show people that you can overcome like adversity, but also show women and girls that it's not like a boys' world and a girls' world. It's like we can all do everything. It's about empowering women. And I changed my charity to King's Scottish Hospital to say thank you to them for giving me that second chance, which is very ironic because a month later I'm back at King's having a discussion about another pituitary tumour, that the same thing had come back.
Cushing's had come back.
Cushing's had returned 8 years later, and I am convinced.
And you're training at the time?
Yeah, pulling training, and I'm super strong. Like my testosterone levels are really high. I'm like stacked. I'm pulling not world record times, but I came 8th in the world for women for the marathon rowing.
Right.
And I was like, I'm pretty good at this. And little did I know, it's actually because my body is like.
Could you feel that? Oh, right. Okay.
Not until I realised. As soon as I realised I had my blood test, I was like, okay, now I can see that things are a bit weird. And the mania, I think, was making me think that rowing an ocean would be perfectly doable. Like, why not? 5 other women had done it. But I was so far into my training and in my fundraising and my story and everything that I was just like, okay, well, this is a great opportunity to show people that even when you're in the middle of something and you know you get setbacks, you can still carry on. So
you've got another tumour.
Yeah.
And
brewing. I think it was probably a bit stronger than the one before because it was only 4 millimetres, and I could definitely tell that stuff was going on. So it was more aggressive, this one.
So clearly
but earlier, so I had another operation. This time I was in hospital for 3 days, not a month, and 10 days later I was back on my bike. I did a 100-kilometre bike ride, I can't remember, but a reasonable sized, a gentle bike ride, like it was up the Thames Path. It wasn't sort of, you know.
You are making me feel so
lazy. As in I wasn't sort of, you know, like I would stop and it was just like I was moving forward kind of bike ride rather than a let's power it bike ride. But if you go out on your bike for a whole day, then like you can clock up 100k quite simply.
I wouldn't know.
Believe me. And that was it. On the 1st of February, 2nd of February, I'd raised the money and I had done enough training. I mean, so much about the row is not the physical, it's a lot about the mental. So off I set.
In February?
Yeah, because it's from Gran Canaria to Barbados. So
so it wasn't too cold.
It's a trade winds. And it's not like here, it's 20 degrees or something.
Yeah.
And then you catch up with the weather as you go down and it ends up really hot. So it's a bit chilly at night time in the Gran Canaria bit, and then as you go further south and further west it gets warmer.
Amazing.
I rode out for about an hour and a half and realised I had to go back, so I left my medication.
Oh no! Yeah,
so I had to go back and get my meds that I left in the apartment.
So the clock, I assume, started again.
Yeah, we started again. Yeah.
So paint the picture. What was your boat like? And
20 foot, it's like a little pod. So you have the kind of door, and you get into it, and everything's in there. So everything you need to sustain yourself is in that boat because no one's
enclosed,
coming with you.
Or you?
Enclosed bed outside rowing. You've got your water maker, you've got solar panels, you've got navigation, you've got autopilot that rudders you, which I actually didn't use, so I hand steered the whole way. You've got your food, so I took the record was 56 days, so I took 50 days of food, that just to, give me a good kick up the arse. But I actually think I took more calories than I needed because I came back with 27 days of food, so something went wrong.
What?
I know. I didn't really eat for about 2.5 weeks because I felt a little bit nauseous, and when I do kind of intense exercise, like I don't know, it's because you're sitting on your stomach, but you just lose your appetite,
Right.
and you're tired, and all you want to do is sleep. You can't be bothered to eat.
So what was the routine each day? You were rowing for how long?
Wasn't very good at routine, but
Oh.
I made sure I did about 12 hours of rowing in a 24-hour period, and it changed when the weather was big and hairy and scary at night time. I would stay in my cabin because it wasn't so nice being out in the cold and wet and
No.
massive great big waves. And then when it was super flat and calm, it was so hot because there was no wind that I would row at night time. It's also beautiful at night time, so I did, unlike most ocean rowers, I made sure I had a longer period of sleep, because most ocean rowers do 2 hours on, 2 hours off, 2 hours on, 2 hours off.
Yeah.
But I kind of figured that there wasn't enough time in that 2 hours off for your body and your mind to ever really repair or relax.
Oh, really?
So I had between 4 to some. There was a couple of days where I hit rock bottom physically, and I think that was my medication issues.
Yeah.
Because I'd obviously just had surgery 6 months ago. I had about 12 hours sleep for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, there was no point killing myself in doing it.
No. Did you have a support group following you through?
Nothing, none of that.
So if something went wrong,
there were people closer to me in space at some points.
What?
Yeah, from there to there,
But
person
so
in the space station.
if you capsized, I don't know how these things work.
Yeah,
if you got into trouble in some way.
Yeah, there's a button to press if if you need to go home, you can press the button and hopefully
Somebody be there in 2 days.
Yeah, so founders get the message and they will radio you if they can. If they can't radio you, they'll just send the nearest ship to look for you or whatever. And then if it's a big, shipping container, you have to climb this massive ladder to get to the top, or if it's a little yacht with 2 hot guys on it, then you get rescued by 2 hot guys. You can't choose, but they can't choose either. It's the closest boat to it's called an EPIRB, so the emergency button that's going off. It's kind of redirected to go
And you must have had some amazing experiences. Did you have some? Tell us about the scariest time, and tell us about the most incredible experience you had.
Scary. There were definitely some times where there was it must have been about 50 foot, this big black wall of water coming towards me.
Big wave.
Big wave. So the waves come, if I'm rowing to Barbados that way, the waves are coming towards me as well. So you can see the waves coming, but they're not like, I think my mum thinks they're like big crashing waves like on the beach, but it's just huge swells.
So you're rowing into them or away from them?
No, away from them.
All right, so
the wind and so you can surf. I woke up one night in the middle of the night going 14 knots down the wave when I could hear the either side of me as I careered down this wave that way. This big wall of water coming towards you, and you just I knew that there's a chance that you die doing these things, but I was like, I wanted to live my life, and living my life was not having a 9 to 5 job or a teaching job. Living my life was putting myself through to see what my body was capable of and see what my mind was capable of. It's like putting it to the extreme and showing people that it is totally a mental barrier that we tell ourselves we can't do things. And everyone goes, oh, I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, my mum, the conversation I have with my mum, it's like, but you don't just drop you in an ocean and go, off you go. You learn and you practice.
Yeah.
When you first started, I just came out of the harbour, and then I went back into the harbour, in Essex, and then you go a bit further the next time, and you go a bit further, and then one day I had to row for 19 hours because I lost my anchor. That's another whole story. But you kind of learn as you go, and then when you leave Gran Canaria, it's not something like you've got a 50-foot wave. Those waves gradually were getting bigger because there was a big wind, and you kind of get used to it. And yes, there were 3 of them were particularly massive.
Did it tumble the boat or something?
No, I was just kind of held on, and when you're attached and the door was shut, and I was like, there's nothing you can do about this.
Wow.
There's nothing you can do about it. So what's the point in? I did have a little pray to God, even though I was just a bit sorry I haven't been praying to you for 25 years, or sorry I haven't believed in you for 25 years, or whatever it was. But if you are up there right now, it's the time that you can just,
need a bit of assistance.
Forgiveness and assist me. And you get to the top and whew, that was cool, and you're kind of you've got the most incredible view of this hairy, stormy sea because you're at the top of it, and then you're oh, there's a massive pit of foam down the bottom where you can just imagine someone else has been sort of, you know, munched alive, and you've got to go back down again, and you've got to go back up. But there's nothing you can do. So you just have to let go.
Extraordinary.
Oh, you know, it's like,
it must be so, feeling of helplessness. And what about the most extraordinary thing that happened?
Someone asked me this question last night, I did a panel. So I saw a white whale, which was pretty cool. There's not very many of them.
Yeah.
It's like 4 or 5 in the world. I liked the fact that when I'd stand on my boat and look around, I'd say it was more of an everyday thing, and you'd just be like, I haven't seen anyone for 10 days, 5 days, whatever it was, and like, it's just such a huge, it's a plug for Google, but you know, you look at your Google Maps and you go, oh, it's not very far, because you've got it completely zoomed in, and it's not until you're in it that you realise exactly how big it was. So in theory, it's like, yeah, it's not very far, because it's a couple of inches on your screen, but it's absolutely vast. And just standing there and thinking, or just discovering that the closest person to me is there
in
and
space.
not over there somewhere.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And then there was just like, when you hit the doldrums, or I don't know, when there's just absolutely no wind whatsoever, and you're in the middle of this huge ocean and you can see your reflection like perfectly.
It must be disorientating in a way.
Yeah, it's like the most bizarre thing.
Did you see sharks? And
yeah, I saw a shark, loads of dolphins doing their little thing. Some dolphins would like come and play with me for like 30 minutes, which was pretty cool. Like a massive pod of them all like in their 3 doing little dances and under the boat and that. And the other thing which everyone always loves is that you had to get out of the boat to clean the bottom. Yeah. So and it's just so weird to think.
Why is that?
Because it grows bits and it slows down.
Right.
But there's 5 kilometres of of depth below you, which I always think is like 5 kilometres is a long way. That's a 3-mile run.
Is the Mariana Trench, or is that the other ocean? I can't remember.
Yeah, at some point, no, it is. There's a trench in the middle. At some point, it goes even deeper than that, probably. And that's like a 30 minute. That's a long way down. Imagine running for 30 minutes, if that's an average pace, isn't it? 30 minutes
to reach
downwards to reach the bottom.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, it puts puts life in perspective in a way, doesn't it?
How, a little bit. How significant we are.
Exactly. What an extraordinary story. And when you arrived, I imagine to great fanfare, I guess everything exploded and you were on the speaking circuit. And
yeah, I guess I got quite a good story. I mean, you know, it was kind of, I raised £100,000 for Kings, which was pretty cool. Well, everyone was very generous, obviously, and donated that amount. I hit all the newspapers, and I was on the Rain TV sofa. I'm on here today. I was very lucky. I've got a good story, and it went to plan. It worked out, and everyone else says, "Oh, you're extraordinary." I'm like, I think I was just in the right place at the right time. Just lucky that I had a few tumours that put me on the what I call the right route to life.
Well, I think you're extraordinary. I think they're right.
I had a good boat, and I don't know, whatever. The stars aligned.
Well, you're very humble about it. And tell me about your latest venture, Kick Plastic.
Kick Plastic is, so I just cycled the entire coast of the UK, which is about 6,900 kilometres, and we did 78 beach cleans with 1,950 volunteers, and we cleared just under 3.5 tonnes of waste off the beaches. Wow. We've got one to return to, because we didn't even touch the sides. We've got about 15 to 20 tonnes worth of fishing gears up in Scotland near Ullapool. Right. And there was only 5 of us, and it was quite a remote beach, and I didn't have 4 weeks to spend cleaning it up. So we're going to go back and we're going to do a festival, like a beach clean festival. Yeah. A bag for a beer. So you collect a bag of crap and you get a beer in exchange is the plan.
Gosh. That'll be interesting as the collection wears on.
Yeah.
What's happening next? You've got a European one coming up,
right?
So
Kick Plastic Europe. So I'm going to do London to Monaco via the entire west coast. So Rotterdam through North France, West France, Spain, Portugal, Spain, France,
amazing.
Monaco.
So if somebody wants to lean in and support in some way, how do they do that?
They can get in touch with me.
Yes. Link below. I'm pointing down for those who are listening on podcast.
Yeah. And it's all about, I'm a big believer in community and purpose. So for me, I'm being a little bit selfish because this is what I like to do. I like being outdoors and I like challenging myself. Yeah. I also feel good about doing things for the greater good. But with my living and giving values that I set myself. I don't want to just be like a taker, but and also as a teacher and education, and I'm passionate about the environment, I kind of just put all these things together, and I just think community is so important in any of these things. If you're just on your own trying to change the world, it's impossible, right? But if you can get other people to come and help. And it was really obvious, because when we had beach cleans with 5 people, we collected, most beaches would be 3 to 5 kilos. When we had a beach with 90 people, we collected 90 to 120 kilos. So it is really obvious that one person genuinely makes a difference. So if everybody was collecting a kilo, then landfill would be very full.
But there needs to be somebody like you who mobilises. What an extraordinary story, and there's so much that we haven't spoken about. You've probably got some young students watching or listening, maybe others more in my age group thinking about this story. Having been through all of these experiences, what's your advice?
You've got to live your life. I mean, I keep seeing it in people, and we've got a climate crisis, so but also to give back. I think that's also important. I find that the less I think about myself, the more I think about others, the happier I become, actually. So it's kind of like it's a nice thing. If you get too involved in your own head, then it can be quite a dangerous world. So actually giving back, being a part of other people's things, supporting and all that stuff. But life is super short, so we've got to think about ourselves, our mental well-being, but also the well-being of the planet, which all kind of links in together.
Well, what brilliant...
in a rather sort of hippie, tree-hugging kind of...
The Gaia philosophy.
Yeah. It's true.
Well, extraordinary advice for young and for old. Kiko Matthews, you're an inspiration. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.